Hello, and welcome to the Disability Law Center of Virginia's annual Day of Giving. My name is Colleen Miller, and I am the Executive Director of the Disability Law Center of Virginia, and I'm honored to be your host. Thank you for joining us and for supporting the work of the Disability Law Center of Virginia. You know, it is the 36th anniversary since the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act this month. It's been a very powerful law that has made a difference in the lives of so many Americans, and we've been really happy to be a part of bringing that to life and seeing that all Virginians get their rights protected. The Disability Law Center of Virginia, or dLCV, is Virginia's Protection and Advocacy agency. We're here to provide services, legal services, and advocacy to people with disabilities all across the Commonwealth. Since 2013, we've been providing those services as the Disability Law Center of Virginia and doing really great work. Our work continues, and your support is always needed. In 2025 alone, the Disability Law Center of Virginia served nearly 3,000 people directly, and we reached another 380,000 people through our systemic advocacy. But let's keep in mind that Virginia is home to almost 2 million people with disabilities. It's really only a small portion of the population we've been able to serve. The need for help is vast, and the potential for change is strong.
Hi, I am Charlotte, and I serve on the Board of Directors of the Disability Law Center of Virginia. dLCV is dedicated to serving Virginians with disabilities throughout their lifespan. I support dLCV because, as a person with a disability, advocating for disability rights is my passion. Please join me in supporting dLCV because the lives of people with disabilities matter. Please consider giving to dLCV. Your support truly makes a difference.
We are excited to welcome our keynote speaker, Shireen Chavez. She brings us a powerful story on why disability rights advocacy matters now more than ever.
My name is Shireen Young Chavez, and I have a very interesting story to tell. On July 31st, 1993, during one of Virginia's hottest heat waves, and following a significant amount of hours of labor, a medical determination was made to perform a cesarean delivery due to the umbilical cord being wrapped around the baby's neck twice and the detection of fetal arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats. At 11:18 a.m., a male infant was delivered. I was that mom, and the male infant that was delivered was my son, Stefan Young Chavez. Little did we know at that time what a major impact the ADA and Olmstead would play in our lives. This involved birth was a precursor for the hard life that lay ahead for my son. Before age 1, he suffered his first grand mal seizure. And also he underwent his first dual corrective surgery on his eyes. At that time, I took him to what was thought to be a well-child checkup, where he later failed every developmental milestone. Our lives, as we thought it would be, drastically changed on that day. Stefan's life began to be full of doctor's appointments, surgeries, therapy, hospitalizations, medications, feeding tubes, and feeding clinics. He required intense 24-hour around-the-clock care until at age 3, he became so ill that he fell into a coma. He was on medical assistance on an intubator, and life was draining from his body. After days of watching him suffer, agonizing to breathe. I found myself alone in that hospital room yet again. Stefan fighting for his life. I did what any mother would do. I gently brushed his cheek, as my grandmother had taught me to do, and I held him close. And I remember whispering to him, "Fly, fly away to sweet Jesus. Don't look back. I'll see you soon." Hoping for the best, planning for the worst, I began to advocate for my son in the hospital. I began to learn medical terminology. I began to ask an abundance of questions. There was only one desire that I had for my son, and that was for him to live. I was faced with medical questions from the doctors, the residents, the attending. Things were being thrown at me that were far beyond my comprehension. Feeling overwhelmed, yet determined, I persevered. And somehow, slowly, miraculously, Stefan began to take his first breaths again. And he did live. He began to breathe. The mechanical beep in the room resonated, showing his one breath to every 12 breaths that the machine was making for him. Fast forward to a life of living in hospitals more than living at home, with mom and dad residing at the Ronald McDonald House and hospitality homes and parent sleep rooms, because it was not effective to go home at that time. Stefan had surgeries on his brain, on his eyes, abdominal reconstructive surgery, and then clinical trials and injections, therapy, and blood transfusions. When Stefan wasn't in the hospital fighting for his life, we would take him to our elected officials, to delegates, senators, governors, the General Assembly, and we would tell Stefan's story. Stefan, being language impaired and nonverbal, was not able to express his life, but I was able to give voice to the challenges that he had overcome. I was able to tell how he was important to his community and how his community rallied around him when he was at his lowest in the hospital fighting for his life. Circa 2011, Stefan, now 18, having overcome many medical obstacles, evading death's touch numerous times, found himself in the hospital yet again. This time, however, was different. As mom, I had to pick the time where he looked his healthiest, because he was to undergo a very involved, very intensive orthopedic back procedure. We had to have him be admitted in the hospital at his best, because there was a likelihood of 50% chance that he would not live. Due to the profound curvature of his spine, Stefan's lungs were not able to expand, and thus this stifled his ability to breathe. Essentially, he was suffocating himself. The curvature so severe, it also strained the ability of his heart to be able to beat properly. The surgery that was scheduled for 8 hours lasted for more than 12 hours, with an emergency neurosurgical procedure in the middle of the orthopedic procedure. In PICU, with myself and my husband by his side for months, Stefan remained intubated, battling sepsis, infections, while in a comatose state. In that small room filled with medical equipment, I found myself, yet again, sitting by his side, desperate, but filled with hope for his survival. At a time when the outside world seemed so far away, I only wanted people to know about him and his remarkable life. Simultaneously, at this time, I received a phone call from the Department of Justice. At that time, they stated that they were coming to Virginia because some changes needed to be made. We talked about Olmsted, and we talked about Stefan and how he was involved in his community, and how if someone like Stefan with intellectual disabilities and significant medical comorbidities could reside in his community with supportive measures in place and be successful, then he could be the example for others who were just as involved medically or perhaps behaviorally with intellectual disabilities to live in their communities with Olmsted, with home and community-based services being utilized to support their day-to-day interactions. At this time, I was called by the Department of Justice to be the very first witness to give cause to say that even those with the most involved medical care can reside in the community, that Olmsted is being utilized, that Olmsted is needed, that through home and community-based services, Medicaid waiver services, Stefan was a black swan, but that he didn't have to be. Others could live a fulfilling life just like him. When Stefan was born, July 31st, 1993, the ADA had already been in effect for 3 years. At that time, again, we didn't know what a major impact ADA would play in our lives. There are 5 pillars to the ADA that still play an essential role in our lives. Title I talks about employment. It gives individuals with disabilities the right to be employed and to have accommodations if needed. Title II speaks about state and local, meaning that there should be free and public accessible transportation, public education, and the ability to enter into state and local government buildings, which is where a lot of disability people need to be in order to advocate for our rights. Title III deals with accommodations. Individuals who are disabled have the right to go to malls, to go to movie theaters, to go to museums, to go to doctor's offices without barriers. Title IV deals with telecommunications. For individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing, relay services come into play and are an essential part of day-to-day life. Title V deals with miscellaneous. The ADA working in conjunction with any other law that supports the cause of individuals with disabilities being involved in their community. Enter Olmsted, that was approved and voted on in 1999, which essentially states that individuals who are disabled have the right to live in the community setting of their choosing with supportive measures in place. Stefan and I utilize ADA and Olmsted every day. 36 years later, after the signing of the ADA, in 2026, we find ourselves at a very scary point in time. I challenge everyone who is seeing this today to get involved, to advocate, to speak with your elected officials, to bring your loved ones out, to let their stories be told, because everyone has the right to live in the community setting of their choosing at their highest level of autonomy. In the special needs community, we have a saying, nothing about us without us. The fight goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen, for sharing your voice with us. Stefan's story is a powerful reminder of why we exist and why we need your support very strongly. Now we're going to share a short video with you from someone who has been directly impacted by dLCV's work. This story and others like it show that your donation can make a huge difference.
The event that caused me great concern and changed the trajectory of my experience at the university was that I was in a Zoom meeting. Out of the blue, the professor called my name in front of the other students and said, "Meriwether, I don't know why you're in a PhD program because you're disabled. It's not like you're ever going to work." And I was so taken back, and these other students were horrified. And I asked her, did she intend to say that as it came out? And she said, yes. She said, you're going to wind up costing the taxpayer money because you're disabled. You'll be able to get your student loans canceled. And this is a very expensive program, and I'm going to wind up paying for your degree. Immediately, I contacted student services or some portion of advising that claims to be in advocacy of students. And I began to get the runaround. They didn't want to confront the teacher. They didn't want to investigate it. They said it was making a bigger deal out of it than necessary. And that they weren't going to lodge a formal complaint. When a professor with authority makes that kind of remark, you realize that it's something of an intimidation effort, because they're going to judge your grades, they're going to judge your writing, they're going to judge your worldview and all of your efforts through this lens of you're not good enough to be there. I felt so wounded. I felt like questioning myself, like, am I not allowed to be educated because I'm disabled? Does everybody assume I'll never do anything fruitful with this education in my life? And it was a terrible feeling. It was a terrible, terrible feeling. So then I just Googled advocacy for students and very quickly got in contact with your organization, which was very streamlined, and then heard from your representative, who was just like an angel to me. If it hadn't been for your organization, the university would have punished me for complaining. Joe LaFawn was in direct contact with them. And when she explained to them, that's against the law, you can't do this, then they started to backpedal. I remember understanding by the way that she pushed back on them that I was going to be able to get credit for that course, but I was going to be hated there. I was able, because of your organization, to leave that program and in the middle of it without having any detrimental mark on my record. It was my interactions with my caseworker and her transparency and her fight for me that really rescued my education. I couldn't have done it without her. I probably wouldn't have gone on at all in my education without her. I would have left with a bad mark and not been able to start anywhere else without, a terribly uphill battle.
Hi, my name is Lydia Yakes, proud TBI survivor. I'm also administrative assistant here at the Disability Law Center of Virginia. I've been with dLCV since May of 2022. I work here because dLCV looked beyond my obvious disabilities and appreciated my skills and abilities. In my job, I've learned so much about our rights As disabled people, I always looked at our advocates and lawyers as superheroes. I can also use my knowledge and skills for good. dLCV impacts people's lives by helping people. People remember me by name or voice and thank me because dLCV has helped them or is helping them. dLCV has lots of repeat clients because they have been helped in the past and they refer others to be helped. dLCV helped me as a client when Social Security said they overpaid me. Professionally, disability rights are important because I don't want other people to choose for me whether I work or not because I have disabilities. I want to be able to have that choice just like anyone else. And knowing my disability rights personally has helped me know what rights I have in the apartment complex where I live. Housing can be intimidating. I am most proud to be part of dLCV knowing that a client who happens to be incarcerated has asked for me directly because she knows and says I care about her and we helped her. Also, being a disabled person every day, I am so proud to be able to help other disabled people. Please consider giving to dLCV. Your support truly makes a difference. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Evan, and I'm proud to serve on the board of directors for the Disability Law Center of Virginia. Growing up, I watched my parents fight for implementation of IEPs for my brother living with autism. And later, I had to navigate my own struggles with advocacy and access after becoming a paraplegic from a traumatic injury. As someone with lived experience, I know firsthand that having someone who understands your rights can make all the difference. That's one of the reasons I'm proud to support dLCV. Every day, dLCV helps people with disabilities overcome barriers, protect their rights, and create opportunities to live, work, and participate fully in their communities. That's why I'm inviting you to join me in supporting dLCV's Day of Giving. Your gift helps ensure that people with disabilities have access to advocacy and legal services at no cost. If you believe everyone deserves someone to stand up for their rights, I hope you'll consider making a gift today. Thank you for joining me in supporting dLCV.
On behalf of all of us here at the Disability Law Center of Virginia, thank you. Thank you so much for being part of this movement. And thanks for supporting us. Your support means that more people with disabilities get to live free from harm, can have much greater independence, can access services, and can live with dignity. Thank you for giving, thank you for caring, and for showing up today. Please visit our website, dlcv.org, if you'd like to make a donation, or you can scan the QR code on your screen to make a gift. Honestly, whether it's $10 or $100, your support today makes a real difference. Thank you.